Grid. Where is it? Maybe it's under... Alright, grid system. Okay, so basically here's an example of the grid. So you have these classes. If we look at this code here, we have a row class, which obviously represents a grid row, and then we have each column. This particular row here is going to have 12 one column divs, which will look like this. Okay, so you'll have 12 columns in a very small space because you're only assigning one column. The next one, if we look at the code here, we have a row, and then we have an 8 column div and a 4 column div. Okay, obviously 8 and 4 is 12. Okay, so it should always add up to 12. And you can see the example here. Here's the 8 column div, here's the 4. And this is perfect for a web page where you have a sidebar. You have the main content in the 8 column and then the sidebar in the 4. The next one we have 3 4 columns, which will give us something like what we have here. Okay, we have 3 columns right there, and that's actually what we will be doing. Alright, now the next one here we have 2 6 columns, which splits everything in half. So if we look at our project, we're using the grid for this. Okay, this is going to be one column, this is going to be another. And if we take a look at the markup, okay, you can see that we have a 6 column div and then another 6 column. Okay, so this is split right in the middle. Now the class names, you can see we have call MD6, and this means medium MD. That's going to reference when the page is at a larger state like this. I also put call SM12 for when the template is smaller, then I want this to take up the whole space. Same thing with the one under it. So if I resize it to a smaller view, you can see that now this div takes up the whole thing, which is 12 columns. Okay, so you can change this how many columns you want pertaining to the screen size, or the browser, or your device screen size. Alright, so we're going to do the grid here. I'm just going to get rid of everything within the container here. So the heading, the paragraph, and the button. Even though we will be having that stuff, but I'll just add it after, just so there's no confusion. Okay, so in the container, what we want to do is create a new div, and we want to call it row. Okay, we'll end that, and then we want our first column, which is going to be div class equals call MD6. Okay, so that'll be one column, and then we're going to have another 6 column div. Okay, so now we have 2 columns, and two divs, 2 6 column divs. And I'm going to add an H1 tag here. Alright, and let me just copy the text we have here. I'm sorry, that's not what we want. We just want this capture life. The other text is for the paragraph. Alright, now I want to change the life text to be green. And remember, we had a class to do that. So let's add that class, which is this mText class. Okay, so to the life text here, I'm just going to put a span around it. So span class equals mText. Okay, and then we just want to end that span. And I'm using span because it's an inline element, so it's not going to cause the text to go on the next line. Okay, so we'll save that, reload, and now you can see that that is green. Now we'll do the paragraph. So I'll just copy this, and right under the H1 I'm going to put a P tag. Okay, so that's our text. And then we also want those app buttons. Okay, so we want these app buttons. You can find those in your program files, and you want to put them inside this IMG. So I'm just going to grab them. Okay, so I'm going to grab the icons. I'm also going to grab the showcase background. Okay, so I'll put those in there. And then what we want to do is create a link. Okay, it's just going to go to nothing. And we want to put our image in there, our button images. So we want IMG. We're going to give it a class of app btn. And then a source. And the source is going to go to IMG / icon underscore appstore.png. Alright, so that's one button. Now I'm going to copy this. And this one is called icon underscore Google Play. Alright, so we'll save that and reload. Now, these buttons are a little too big for one thing, and they're also on separate lines, which we don't want. So let's change the width of these. We're going to go to Style CSS, and we're going to use the Jumbotron to reference the Jumbotron, and then the class, which is app btn. Alright, and we're going to set that to a width of 40%, and also a margin right, so they're not right up against each other. We're going to set that to 30 pixels. Okay, so that looks good. Now we want to add the background image. Okay, so the image of the kids, which is called Site Showcase BG. So we just want to apply that to the actual Jumbotron class. Okay, and we also want to add a few other things, but let's first add the background. So background URL. Okay, the URL is going to be back in the IMG folder, and it's called Site Showcase bg.png. Alright, we want to specify no repeat, and I also want to position it to the top center. Alright, now let's just save that and reload. Oh, we didn't. Did I add it? I did. Site Showcase. Oh, it's JPEG, not PNG. There we go. Alright, so look at this text. You can't read it. We need to change it so that the default text is going to be white for our Jumbotron. So just add color, white. I'm also going to make it higher, so height of 598 pixels. Whoops. Okay, and then I also want to specify overflow none. Alright, so there is the showcase. Now we're missing the big image, obviously. That's going to be in the next div, 6-column div, which is right here. Okay, so we'll just throw that in, image, source, and that's going to be in the IMG folder. Actually, I got to bring it over. So let me see. I'm actually going to bring the rest over. We have this, 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 and this. Okay, so again, you'll find these in your folder, in your program files. Okay, so the image is called site_phone PNG. So let's see what that looks like. Okay, so you'll notice that there is a little space down here, so we need to fix that. Also, I want to push this down a little. Okay, so we'll add a margin top to the H1 tag. Okay, so in the style sheet, I'm going to say Jumbotron H1, and I'm going to add a margin top of 60 pixels. Okay, so that's pushed down. I'm also going to push these icons down, so I'm going to add a margin bottom to the paragraph. So margin bottom 40 pixels. And then for the phone image, I'm actually going to add a class to it. I forgot to do that. I'm going to add a class of phone. Alright, actually, you know what? We should change that. That's another example of bad semantics. Let's do showcase image, and the reason is maybe you'll want to change it so that it's not a phone image, it's something else. And then having a class of phone doesn't make sense. It'll always be a showcase image, so let's use that. And then we're going to say Jumbotron showcase image, and I'm just going to set a width of 75%. Whoop. Alright, so you know what, I think I put the wrong height for this. The Jumbotron, let's try 500. There we go. So that should be 500, not 598. So that's the showcase, or Jumbotron, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to stop the video here, and in the next one we'll continue down and we'll do the 3-column divs next. Alright, so in the last video we created our navigation bar and the showcase Jumbotron area. Now we're going to move on to the 3 columns that'll go underneath the showcase. So in the index.html, under the Jumbotron div, we have a section tags. And when I'm building any HTML5 website or interface, I like to section things off and give them an ID. So I'm just going to give this an ID of, let's just say, I don't know, 3 calls. Okay, because that'll reference our 3 columns. Actually, let's just call it the middle, because we might change it to 4 columns later on. So what I want to do is create a container, because we want this content to be pushed to the middle. So we'll create a div container. Okay, and we're going to use the grid again here. So we want our row grid, our row div. And then inside there we want to have our columns. Okay, so div class, and what we're going to do is have 3 4-column divs. So they need to be 4 columns. So we'll say MD4. Alright, and then inside, actually let's just copy this. So that'll be our 3 columns. And we're going to have an image first of all. So image source, and that's going to be, I believe it's called demo 1. Yeah, demo 1 JPEG. Okay, demo 1 JPEG, and let's give it a class of demo. Next, we're going to want a heading, and it's going to actually be an H2. Okay, so we'll just say lorem ipsum. And I'm actually going to, just to get some sample content, I'm going to go to the Lipsum website. Okay, and just generate a few paragraphs. And I just want to copy maybe a sentence or two. We'll just go to here. And I'm going to put that inside of a paragraph tag. And then under the paragraph we need a button or a link. Actually, when you're using Bootstrap, let me just go to the buttons page. Okay, so you can basically use a link. Okay, so an A tag with the class of BTN, and then the style, which is in this case is BTN default, which will give us a white button. Alright, so you don't actually have to have a button to use these, to have this kind of style. You can also do it on input tags. Alright, and if we scroll down, you can see a variety of colors here, and you can use these colors inside of the class name. Okay, so for instance, here we have button dash primary, and that's going to give us this blue color by default. Obviously, if you're creating a custom Bootstrap template, you can update the class to have whatever color you want for primary. But by default, it's blue, success is green, info is light blue, warning is yellow, and danger is red. And default is white. Okay, so those are the default classes and colors. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the default. Okay, so let's just make this link go nowhere and give it a class. You want to remember that first BTN though too, because when I first started using Bootstrap, I'd always forget it. Okay, so it should be BTN and then BTN default. Alright, and then the text, we'll just say read more. Okay, and we can take a look at that. Did I save it? No, I didn't save it. Alright, so the first thing you probably notice is this image is huge. And the reason for that is it's actually breaking out of its div. You can see the div actually ends right here. Alright, now to fix this, all you need to do is make sure that you make this image have a width of 100%. If you have a width of 100%, it's going to take up 100% of its parent div, which ends like right here. Alright, so remember we have a class of demo, so in our style sheet we can just say demo and then just set the width to 100%. Okay, now if we go and reload, now it looks good because it's in its own parent div. It's not busting out. Alright, so that's what we want. Now I also want to add a border and a little bit of padding. Okay, so in the demo class, we'll say, we already did that. We want padding. So padding 3 pixels, and then border, we'll do 1 pixel, solid, and gray. And I like to, if it's an image, I like to just do image.demo just so we know that. Okay, just like right here, this Jumbotron, I'm going to say image.appButton. And then here. Alright, so that's all the images. Alright, so we'll save that, reload, and now you can see it has a border. Now I want to do this with all 3 columns, so we're just going to go ahead and copy. Okay, so we'll get from the image, the heading, paragraph, and button. Paste that in here, and here. And now, we just want to change the names of the images so they're not all the same image. So we have demo 1, demo 2, and demo 3. Okay, so that looks good. Now when I use the grid system, I usually like to give the row div a little margin on the top here, because you can see it's a little close. So I'm going to, actually, you know what, I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is add some padding to the top and the bottom of the section. Okay, so this is a section here. Alright, so I'm going to go and I'm going to put this at the top because it's kind of a global setting. So I'll say, whoops, I just want to do section, and we're going to say padding, and that's going to have 40 top, 0, 40 on the bottom, 0. Okay, so now you can see that it's pushed down. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the feature area, which is this green area. Okay, so in my HTML, we're going to do another section. I'm going to ID this one as features, or just feature. Okay, we want to have a container. And then inside the container, we're going to have a row. You'll be seeing this grid system a lot. It's basically, it helps with responsiveness and formatting, just formatting your pages on a mobile device or a tablet. So we want a div class. As far as the columns, now this is a little tricky because we want to have, we want it split down the middle. You can see like we have here, but we don't want them to be way over. We don't want this to be way over to the left, or this image to be way over to the right. And what we can do is set an offset. Alright, so if we look at the grid system,